Ladies and gentlemen, a golden hello if you're in the United States of America. A silver hello if you're from Canada. A bronze hello if you're from Finland. Who won the bronze medal in the women's?
I do not know.
This is the earliest we've ever started a show and not had this information handy. Anyway, bronze to you as well. The United States, 2 for 2.
Switzerland.
In overtime. Switzerland, 2 for 2. The bird has been freed for the United States. Eric, how are you?
Good, Joe. That was a fantastic game. Both of those championship games were fantastic games, and the enjoyment of Canadian fans crying behind the smiley mask.
We're gonna talk about all of it.
Saying that silver shines just as bright.
Let's not start.
Yeah,
let's keep it. Let's keep it
I'm enjoying
together.
it.
We're going to do a little housekeeping first. We're going to do the Ombudsman report. I want to talk about the women first. Then I want to talk about the men because that'll roll us into Rangers topics quite smoothly. Episode number 73 of Blueshirt's Bandwidth. Got the podcast name right this time. BlueshirtBanter.com. $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. $40 a year gets you access to our Discord tier. You can write comments, including comments in the question thread that Eric puts up every single week. By the way, there was a question today about the Discord, which I think we should ask in the moment right now. Kyle Snitzer says, why is everyone afraid to join the Discord? We've got a good group over there and have some great discussions. You too can hear your questions read, by the way, if you are a subscriber of either tier at Blueshirt Banter. We read them through the show. We talk about them. Sometimes we mock you. Sometimes I say your name wrong. Sometimes you ask brilliant questions that make Eric and I go, wow. Chip writes for the website because of his questions. That could be you. Anyway, Kyle, the answer of your question is I need to do a better job being in the Discord. Roberto's doing a really good job being active in there. I think Eric, myself, Chip, some of the other writers can get in there a little bit more and throw some grenades to kind of bring some comments about. There's a lot of social media things we're juggling right now. Facebook.com/BlueshirtBanter, YouTube.com/BlueshirtBanter, BlueshirtBanter.com, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. Leave us 5 stars. Listen to us. Watch us. The Discord, which you have to be a subscriber to Blueshirt Banter to join. It's all going to pick up at some point. I think a lot of people, the main question is, how is the Discord different than the comment section on the Banter? Another good question. It's a little bit more fluid, the Discord, a little bit more real time with things happening. A little bit more chaotic, to be honest with you, just because of the way that it's laid out. But you should get in there, and we'll try to get in there more too. Eric keeps telling me he will, and he doesn't because he's a bad friend. So you guys can really blame Eric for this one, or Chip. To be fair, Chip doesn't know who wore 61 for the Rangers, so he may not know what the internet is at all. But if he's aware, he should definitely pay attention. Eric, how are you today?
I'm good. Episode 73. There are 2 Rangers who have worn 73. I know you know one of them. I'm curious if you know the second. The first one is obviously
Mr. Thumb, Matt Rempe.
That's correct.
The
2017.
Oh, all right. Then I'm wrong in what I was going to say. 73. Is it a kid? A child who wore a number that he didn't keep? I have no idea.
Brandon Peary.
I vividly remember him having a 2-goal, 1-assist game against the Islanders in the preseason, and then he made the team, and then he was off the team pretty quickly after that. So
2016-17, he played 60 games for the Rangers, scored 8 goals, 10 assists for 18 points.
Guess it's the Matt Rempe episode. This is a happier episode than normal.
It's maybe the Matt Rempe episode.
Maybe the Brandon Peary.
It's the Matt Rempe from a year and a half ago.
The first round against Washington.
When the vibes were great.
Catching frogs and living with Quick.
It's the Matt Rempe. Yeah, playing with Jonathan Quick's kids.
Yeah.
The Golly G. Willikers stuff. It's good vibes Matt Rempe episode.
Yes, agreed. So this is the Matt Rempe episode. Like I said, blueshirtbanter.com. Find us there. Facebook.com. A little bit more active on Facebook, actually, the past week. We figured out a way to start dragging that traffic back over to us and doing a couple of other things there. So please join us. We have like 26,000 likes there. So YouTube.com as well. We're going to try to get some stuff on there. We simulcast or syndicate, I guess I should say, the podcast over there. You can also watch us on Spotify. You can see me and Eric right now. Eric is in a green diarrhea-colored sweater. I am in a delicious blue quarter zip that makes me look nice and handsome. So that's what you could be seeing right now if you were on Spotify. Eric, we have a million things to talk about today. Let's begin with my mortal enemy, Charlie and the Ombudsman.
Yes, the podcast Ombudsman Report for Blueshirt Bandwidth episode 72, where each week Charlie Vidal will listen to the episode of the podcast and correct the record on anything that we get wrong, starting with Man of the Cross. Joe called himself a man of the cross. If Joe is a man of the cross, why did he get John 3:17 so wrong, as noted in episode 69, Ombudsman Report?
Because it was a joke, Charlie.
Sharon Moore. While discussing the Tony Clark situation, Sharon Moore, the now former Michigan football head coach, was brought up. Moore was dismissed due to an affair with a staffer and was ultimately arrested when he broke into her home to confront her. The staffer who was allegedly involved in the affair had her salary jump from $58,000 in 2023 to $99,000 in 2025, per Fox News. Guys running the NHLPA. Well, Tony Clark is certainly leaving his post at the head of the MLBPA for inauspicious reasons. The NHLPA has had plenty of executive directors leave under inauspicious circumstances as well, including Alan Eagleson, 1967 to 91, forced out for embezzling from the pension fund and taking kickbacks from owners in exchange for keeping players' salaries down, was sentenced to 18 months in prison in Canada. Bob Goodenow, 92 to 2005, forced out after he led the NHLPA into utter defeat and cancellation of the entire 2004-05 season. And Ted Saskin, for 2005 to 2007, forced out after it surfaced that he accessed player email accounts. The Philip Hedl episode. This was the Philip Hedl episode. Unfortunately, since this podcast was recorded, Philip Hedl has suffered another head injury. He was hit in the head with a puck in practice and fractured a facial bone. This is one of those that obviously that happened after we recorded. I don't even know what to say about that. If that poor kid did not have bad luck, he would not have any luck at all. To in this case, be off to the side of the net and be hit in the face by an errant slap shot is just. Can he hire an Etsy witch to undo whatever curse has been placed upon him? It is just absolutely heartbreaking. 11-year-old understanding. When discussing the 11-year-old who came to an agreement with the Philadelphia Phillies, Joe pondered, does he even fundamentally understand what he's agreeing to? There is absolutely no way that an 11-year-old in the Dominican Republic understands what Philly fans are about. Noting how young he is, Eric commented that he's, quote, part of the 2031 international class. I don't want to think about playing baseball in 2031. Based on MLB's current labor tensions, MLB owners don't want to think about playing baseball in 2031 either. As a side note, in 2031, a 43-year-old Brad Marchand will be an unrestricted free agent. Paul Brothers NFT. In August 2021, Logan Paul bought an NFT from the One Force NFT collection for approximately $623,000 worth of Ether. As of last week, similar NFTs from the collection are selling for a little under $2,000, which would represent a 99.6% drop in value. Charlie fighting Joe. Quote, are you trying to fight me, Charlie? Joe Fortunato. In case the children are nervous that Daddy and Uncle Charlie are going to fight, you can rest assured that we have reconciled over a mutual love of roasting Eric on X. Racine Plumbing. Once again, Eric mentioned Racine Plumbing, the New York sports bar in Chicago, where Eric and I watched the 2014 and 2015 playoff runs. Although it is now closed, it was once my favorite bar in the world. Amen to that. Matthew Tkachuk chirp. Matthew Tkachuk taunted Leon Draisaitl following Team USA's 5-1 win over Germany in the group stage, saying to him, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Unfortunately, we are unable to link to a video because we don't want to have the IOC launch a drone strike against the banter offices at 2 Penn Plaza, New York, New York. First overall picks. Joe asked, could it be more depressing to watch the first overall picks dominate the Olympics? The following first overall picks were featured in the Olympics. 2024, Macklin Celebrini, 10 points. 2022, Juraj Slafkowski, 8 points. 2019, Jack Hughes, 7 points. 2018, Rasmus Dahlin, 5 points. 2017, Nico Hischier, 4 points. 2016, Austin Matthews, 7 points. 2015, Connor McDavid, 13 points. 2013, Nathan McKinnon, 7 points. And 2005, Sidney Crosby with 6 points. Note, Jack Hughes didn't even lead his own family in scoring. Rangers NMCs. It was mentioned that after the letter 2.0, or the letter 2 Drury Boogaloo, went out, the team approached those with no movement clauses asking if they wanted out. 5 Rangers have full no movement clauses. Mika Zibanejad, who becomes a modified no trade clause during the 2029 offseason. JT Miller becomes a 15-team no trade list during the 2027 offseason. Adam Fox becomes a 16-team no trade list during the 2027 offseason. Vladislav Gavrikov and Igor Shesterkin. Fast food. Joe and Eric discussed fast food in light of Wendy's declaration that 2026 will be a rebuilding year. Joe went on to say that he rarely visits Wendy's anymore now that, quote, McDonald's went to always fresh. The Quarter Pounder is the only burger that is made using fresh beef. Everything else, the Big Mac, double cheeseburger, McDouble, etc., is made using frozen beef. As far as Wendy's goes, I have to add that their breakfast potato wedges are French fries for breakfast. And finally, Eric said that the Florida Panthers could not offer up their first-round pick for Artemi Panarin because, quote, the Chicago Blackhawks have the Panthers' first-round pick. Almost 1 year after the trade, Frank Saravelli finally publicly reported for the first time that the pick is top 10 protected. And that concludes the Ombudsman.
Excellent, Charlie. Great work. We are no longer fighting because we are roasting Eric on a day-to-day basis on Twitter. I can't call it X. All right. Let's quickly dive into the Olympics. So much to talk about. The women win 2-1. So did the men, actually. Just put 2 and 2 together on that one. An overtime game. I would say surprising. It's like almost the exact reverse. The women there was so much better, so much more talent on the United States side. Canada really ground out pretty much the exact same way the United States did on the men's side. Get themselves to overtime. One of the prettier game-winning goals you'll ever see, I think. Just a disgusting one-handed deke and finish. The United States women win. This is their first medal or their first gold medal since 2018, I want to say.
I think that's right.
So Charlie will probably correct us. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to all of the women who won the gold medal there. That was fantastic. Then the men come in.
Can we just say real quick, though,
by all means,
the insane level of dominance that the U.S. women's hockey team had at the Milan Olympics, they gave up 2 goals in the entire tournament, I believe. That is just insane. The level of efficiency, effectiveness, pure, utter domination that you saw from the women. You're right that it is in some ways the inverse of the men's gold medal game where, and we will talk about this in a moment, the U.S. men did get outplayed for most of that game, with the exception of how utterly brilliant Connor Hellebuyck was. It really was the inverse for the women's game. The U.S. team was clearly better. Canada got it to overtime, and Megan Keller's game-winning goal, just absolutely filthy, sliding the puck through the defender and then chipping it under the arm of Canada's goaltender. We're going to make this point, make this at some point, either about the men's championship or the women's championship. I know that ESPN gets a lot of crap for how they broadcast hockey games now. Like Rick Carpinello in particular is always complaining about the shot selection in the production. I do not understand at all the decision by NBC after each overtime golden goal was scored to pan up and show the crowd for like 5 seconds rather than showing the player that just scored celebrating the goal. I have been involved in enough video production, not as much live production as film production. just understand that that is a absolutely bonkers production choice. I do not get it at all. It was a really weird thing, and I lament that we do not have the OG broadcast for the future showing both Megan Keller and Jack Hughes going crazy after scoring those goals. It was just very, very weird.
Yeah, you need to find a video from the crowd basically to get what you're looking for, which I went and did. I've watched
Yeah,
the
and you can
goal.
find
I've
plenty
watched
of
both
them.
goals like 17 times each, different views of each of them. I agree with you though. It's so surprising. It was really shocking to see it because you would expect the camera to follow Hughes. The United States just won. Like, I want to see the guys jump off the bench. I want to see the mob. Like, I want to see those things. And I got none of it. You know, one of the things that I think is completely, it just goes to show the amount of dominance that the women have in the game. Most of the best players on the United States women team are back in college right now. I have this vivid memory of when Christian Pulisic made the men's national team. I think he was 16 when he played in the game that I'm referencing. Then he went to prom the next day. It was like a World Cup qualifying game, and then he went to prom. Like, how badass are you to be able to do that? And now many of these women are just going back to college, just like, yeah, you know, I won a gold medal, whatever. Got to be a really cool feeling. It just shows that the game of hockey on the women's side is in really good hands for years to come. You know, it's not very often that you see the Canadians tip their caps to the United States in hockey. There was a lot more of that for the women than the men. I just think because the women are so good, there's no way to you literally can't walk away from it. It just is what it is. They are that
It,
good.
to the point that it was, as we said, it was kind of the inverse of the men's championship game where, and we will get into this in a moment, where Canada dominated a lot of the men's championship game. The United States dominated that entire Olympic tournament. They are far and away the best, and it is kind of remarkable that Canada was an overtime goal away from what would have been a truly massive upset.
Right. And that's, that's exactly what I think. It just goes to show that there are look, I think in a lot of respects, the United States have really made a focus on hockey in general, have made inroads of hockey in general. And you can see, like, the United States did not take the best team they could have to Milan, but they hung with Canada. Canada outplayed them for pretty much the entire game, which you and I were expecting from the jump. But there's a really good hockey team there. And this is not, it doesn't feel like I think the NHL could not have been happier to kind of transition this over to the men a little bit with the way that this played out. You had 2 overtime games from the United States perspective for the women and the men. You get the United States Canada, which is really it's just the only way that this could have ended. And it's a great game. Canada dominated, don't get me wrong, but it's a great game. And it's everything that you want out of this, and then the United States win. It's a picture perfect kind of ending for Gary Bettman and, and the NHL in general. Now, I will
We
say,
should make the point too that in a year's time, the United States has scored 4 golden goals at 4 different levels of competition. The men's Olympic championship, the women's Olympic championship, the world championships, and the world juniors. 4 overtime game winners for the United States in a year is really incredible stuff. And to your point, clearly the United States has put more of an effort on talent development and a specific kind of talent development. And this is where we are eventually going to get into some of the discussions. And I know there are questions about this, about the roster construction for the United States and whether this validates the decisions to leave off people like Cole Caulfield and Jason Robertson and Adam Fox. And I think the point just needs to be made that the U.S. talent development program now is just it is light years beyond where hockey talent development in the United States was in really the 90s, the 80s, anytime before that. There is clearly an effort and an emphasis on developing skill now and not as much the American north-south run into people kind of game that you would have previously expected from American players, a different style of hockey. And it's working. It is clearly working. You have incredible talent from the United States in the game now, and it's great to see.
Yeah, and the NHL was out of the Olympics for a few cycles. This is the first time that they've been back since what?
12, I think.
No, because the golden goal was in 10, wasn't it? 2010. So 2014, Lundqvist got a
Oh, was it
gold, and that was the
14?
last
Yeah,
one, wasn't it?
it all feels forever ago.
This was really the NHL needed this to be good, and it was great. And I think NBC did a wonderful job with the Olympics in general. I think it was a really good show. The hockey specifically, it being so late in the Olympics too, the buildup was there. Everybody was hoping that it was going to be USA Canada. It absolutely was. It was a great game. I want to address something from the jump before we really get into anything. I have not seen this, so I want to make that clear. Boomer Esiason had a series of comments about Rangers fans who were saying they couldn't celebrate it or because it was Jack Hughes. I'm sorry. We will be respecting Jack Hughes for eternity now.
Yeah.
Sorry. He plays for a poverty franchise. You can mock the Devils all you want. We will not slander Jack Hughes at all. The man is an American hero. He won the gold medal for the United States. It is what it is. It was actually really nice to root for him and Quinn Hughes. I honestly really banner week for the Hughes brothers. They were fantastic. Quinn Hughes was dominant in this tournament, scored the game-winning goal against Sweden to put Mika Zibanejad out of his misery. This was absolutely about as good as it comes from a Hughes perspective. I thought Quinn Hughes was maybe the best player on the ice in the gold medal game, top to bottom. Eric, have you at this point, Connor McDavid just can't win big games, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of wild,
Somebody needs
isn't it?
somebody needs to turn the Matthew Tkachuk chirp from
I was gonna
Draisaitl
say,
on to
ugh.
Connor McDavid. In the last 3 years, he has twice lost in the Stanley Cup final, once being named the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and lost in the Olympic final, being named the tournament's most valuable player. I don't even know what to say at this point.
Yeah, what do you do?
Is there a greater player who just cannot win it all?
It also, I find it so interesting that this game was almost the inverse of the Four Nations game, in that the United States, not that the United States dominated the Four Nations game, but specifically the game-winning goal. Now it's McDavid on the ice instead of Matthews, not able to cover. Makar is the one who's just, by the way, hats off to you, Eric, for the point. It literally cost Adam Fox his spot on this team, supposedly, what happened in the Four Nations tournament.
For not doing anything wrong. I want to
Right,
be
not-
abundantly clear. It is Austin
not-
Matthews who loses his man on the McDavid goal. It is not on Adam Fox. And it is clearly on all three Canadian players on the ice. All three of them are terrible on that play. McDavid and Makar are way too far in the zone for the way that the play is developing. McKinnon gets absolutely shoved off of the puck by Zach
fucking
Werenski.
bodied.
And the video that you see of Makar, and look, I'm fine if you want to make the point. I actually don't know how long he had been on the ice. You cannot
No, you can't
look
stop.
that
You gotta go.
JT Miller level indifferent getting
So
back on
we're
defense
gonna fucking get there.
on a play like that in 3-on-3 overtime. And somebody else made the point, and I think it's a good one, which is you see Makar and McDavid that deep in the zone cheating that much because they're looking for that individual honor right there. They want to be the one to end the game. And to a certain extent, understandably so, but it's 3-on-3. You guys do this regularly. You know what that experience is like. And I really think the more amazing play, the most amazing part of that play is what Jack Hughes does at the top of the defensive faceoff circle to one-hand that puck as far ahead as he does so that Werenski can get it. That is an incredible play, and it is poorly played, and I am sorry. if it had been Adam Fox doing what Cale Makar did on that play, we would never hear the end of it. But, Cale Makar is a good old Canadian boy, and those boys can never do any wrong, so I'm sure he'll just get off scot-free for all.
Well, he's got a silver medal to hang around his neck, so that at least will make him feel a little bit
The
better.
worst defense that I have seen of this is he's won a Stanley Cup championship, and Adam Fox hasn't. For fuck's sake, can we stop assigning pure value of players based on team championships?
No, we'll never be able to do that.
One single person cannot win a championship in a team sport. They just cannot do it. So it is the worst and most ridiculous attempt to defend that, to say, well, he's a Stanley Cup champion. I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care.
The two things I really don't understand. Listen, we're going to troll Canada. This is not even me trolling Canada. I don't understand McDavid going 1v3 on the play leading. It wasn't even like he generated that good of a chance. He had an opportunity to slam it in. He really couldn't. Hellebuyck was playing out of his mind at that point, so I'm not sure what you think you're going to get out of it. That part's not the issue. What I don't understand is Makar is chasing the play, right? Because he's also tired. He's on his back foot. You actually see him when Werenski makes that pass to Hughes, panic and start skating. You're literally watching him skate wide open in the slot. Maybe Makar was hanging back because he thought that McKinnon was going to be able to win the puck. And if he does, we're having a totally different conversation here, which is like Jack Hughes can't be the third guy in flowing into the slot and not recognizing that Makar is behind him. But that's not what happened. Puck went right onto Hughes' stick. Hughes fucking puts it into the back of the net. USA are champions, baby. By all means, USA are champions.
One more Cale Makar point. Dude also got walked by Matt Boldy for the first goal of the game. Absolutely splits. Like the play that he makes to tip it up in the air to himself and then to recognize that Binnington is moving one way and put the puck back the other. Not a good game for Cale Makar, who, I want to be clear, is one of the three best defensemen in the National Hockey League. I would take him on the Rangers in a
heartbeat.
Absolutely. One of the three best defensemen in the National Hockey League. So I'm really not trying to slander him in that sense, only to make what I think is the blatantly obvious point, that really great players can have very bad games and very bad moments. And that doesn't define who they are in their entirety as a player any more than being not at all responsible, or at least not majoritively responsible, for the Connor McDavid goal in a meaningless in-season tournament that the NHL had instead of the All-Star game is supposed to define who Adam Fox is.
Yeah,
it is a ridiculous argument. It was a ridiculous argument then. It's an even more ridiculous argument now that Cale Makar cost Canada something even bigger.
Well, honestly, let's defend Cale Makar a little bit here for a second. Nathan McKinnon going full Ryan Strome, not a good look for him either, my friend. He puts that goal away with 10 minutes left in the third period. That game is over.
It's game, yeah.
I tried not to harp on this point, and we're admittedly going to talk about this. I think a couple of you asked questions about this. Vincent Trocheck got his fucking licks in about this as well. One of the things that I tweeted during the game was, it's very hard if the difference between bringing the right team, quote unquote, and the best team is when you need somebody to do something special. You all of a sudden look around and realize you didn't bring enough horses to the race. And that was the United States through this game. They did not have anyone. It was very similar to watching a New York Rangers game, quite frankly. Not even as a joke. Like, the best thing to happen to the United States was Canada scoring the goal to tie the game, because it forced Mike Sullivan and the team to not shell, which means what you saw in the third period, which was Canada making the United States their bitch, was actually not the United States shelling. It would have been way worse. Hellebuyck made the save of saves against Devin Taves. He is a Quinnipiac grad. We will not slander him. That's unfortunate that it happened to him. Got a little bit of luck with McKinnon missing the wide open net. And then the United States just kind of, Eddie Olchuk, who I thought was fantastic in this, in the broadcast. Kenny Albert was great. By the way, Peter Baugh, not Peter Buttigieg, making the commentary of, like, put respect on Kenny Albert's name. Who's not respecting Kenny Albert at this point? I didn't see any
look,
Kenny Albert slander, thankfully.
the Kenny Albert slander that I have seen comes mostly in the form of, and if this is just downright to a, in matters of taste, there are no disagreements. People who just have a preference for Alex Faust as a play-by-play guy over Kenny Albert, I think is a completely reasonable opinion. I think they are two different broadcasters. I like both of them. I think the Rangers have an embarrassment of riches in that sense, that in the same way that they used to have Sam Rosen and Kenny Albert as their TV and radio broadcasters and the radio guy to fill in on TV. That's the only real Kenny Albert slander that I see. I've seen, look, the biggest downgrade is going to be going from that style of Olympic hockey and Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk doing the broadcasts. Not to that, to ESPN national broadcasts and Sean McDonough and Ray Ferraro doing the broadcasts, which I would rather form an icicle from what is left of the frozen water outside of my house and stab my eardrums with it than listen to the two of them broadcast another game. But that is what it is.
I played the fifth. The bigger piece to me is it just, I'll give Greg Kaplan flowers on this from Blueshirts Breakaway. He made the comment, the USA are going to learn no lessons from this, like 0 lessons. Every lesson they learn about this is going to be the wrong lesson. Here are my list of winners. Bill Guerin, number 1. Put together this team, stuck by his shit. Eric and I will eat all the crow in the world. He hit on 20 and he got a fucking ace, baby. Like, he won. He's a gold medalist. There is nothing anyone can do to take that away from him. Still think he didn't bring the best team he could have brought. Do think this may do some damage to the United States moving forward. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Quinn Hughes, you got to start having a discussion about him being the best defenseman in the NHL after this Olympics. I mean, he was that good. If I know he didn't. If you told me he played 45 minutes in that gold medal game, I would believe you. By the way, Quinn Hughes, that's another fucking win for Bill Guerin for going out to get him and bringing him in. Jack Hughes, absolutely. You score the golden goal. There's no way you're not a winner here. Connor Hellebuyck, maybe the biggest winner aside from Bill Guerin, shedding the not a big game, big moment player. Listen to me. I watched Henrik Lundqvist my entire life. I have watched a man perform miracles in the crease before. That game was as much a Henrik Lundqvist Game 7 game as I have ever watched in my life. I mean that as a complete compliment. Hellebuyck he wasn't just good, he was transcendent. I don't even know what else will never be replicated, that type of a performance. Austin Matthews gets to go back to Toronto. He's a winner.
Also shows they can't win off of it, and at the expense of Canadian fans.
Yep. Mitch Marner scores the game-winning goal for Canada to get to the gold medal game. Everybody forgets that because they lost. I also have to say, and I'm not, we're being very positive right now. We'll get to the negatives in a bit. The United States' best players, outside of Quinn Hughes, kind of sucked this tournament in general. Matthews, not amazing. The Tkachuks, not amazing. Matthew Tkachuk specifically. Brady was really good on the bench. He was mic'd up a bunch. You heard him. He was trying to get the boys going. Did you recognize either of them in the gold medal game?
Not particularly. The thing I will say in defense of Austin Matthews, and I will give him credit for, is the kind of offensive goal-scoring force that you have come to expect him to be. He was not in these Olympics. He was a pretty damn good 200-foot player.
Especially in the gold medal game. He put out 2 fires in the first period that really, like, if Canada scores there to tie the game up, I really think it's, And let's also say, we're being positive right now, Eric. Mike Sullivan, God bless his soul, on a 1 minute and 33-second 5-on-3, sent Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller out there, and those motherfuckers got the job done. That was one of the greatest penalty kills I have, in the context of the moment, I have ever seen in my life. The United States dominated a 5-on-3. Multiple clears. I don't think Canada had one really dangerous look. I think McDavid got that one shot off on the side, which was like a bad angle that Hellebuyck kind of pushed over. Trocheck's trade value through the goddamn roof. Absolutely.
Put into context too, who they did it against. I mean, to have what it would have been Celebrini, McDavid, McKinnon, McCarr. Who else was on that power play? Charlie will tell us. Just an insane all-star lineup of a 5-on-3 power play, and to not surrender a goal. And as to your point, seemingly to not even surrender a meaningful scoring chance. Yes, absolutely. Like that, it worked out perfectly.
Totally get their flowers. It, you know, I also want to say, and it's a little unfortunate because I really want to slander the guy, but I won't. Takes a lot of balls for Sidney Crosby to pull himself out of that lineup, making the decision that he's not good enough to go. He doesn't have it in him. Tage Thompson, I believe, couldn't go, right? Like he played and ended up sitting, didn't he, in the third period? Like he got hurt and just ended up not being able. Very similar to what happened, I believe. Charlie will correct me if it wasn't him. If to Matthew Tkachuk in the Four Nations game, where it was like he just can't go. Like
yeah, that was right.
He's
yeah.
hurt. I understand the Sidney Crosby piece where like Canada's like, God, I wish we fucking had him. It breaks the hockey culture of no, I am actually not good enough hurt. I think I will hurt the team. And it had to kill him to watch what happened happen. Again, talking about learning all the wrong lessons. I think the lesson here will be like, oh, just play through the injury. Who cares? Not slander at all. Took a lot of balls for Sidney Crosby to do what he did. I think it was the right move for him to do what he did. I'm not going to say it's unfortunate that it went against him because United States, baby. Hell yeah. But I respect the hell out of Sidney Crosby. I hate how much I respect Sidney.
Yeah, agreed.
Mike Sullivan, I thought, again, it was like I was watching a Rangers game. Rangers fans were very comfortable with it being like, wait, the shots were 18-8 in the second period. We're like, yeah, guys, this is just what happens. It's fine. Just sit back, relax, enjoy the show.
It's that James Franco meme of, the guy on the gallows, like first time.
Yeah, exactly. First time. Yeah, it is. No, fucking get ready. This is what it's going to be. So I think that from a United States perspective, you got to tip, like, overtime was again, Vincent Trocheck trade value, went out there for the faceoff. Every important faceoff that had to happen, Vincent Trocheck was out there. United States put their people out. Let's start turning this into the Canadian slander. John Cooper, you're a fucking child. The amount of bitching from him about the 3-on-3, first of all, you weren't saying shit when you won the 3-on-3 overtime to get to the gold medal game in the first place, because I guess you won, so it's allowed. Second of all, these were the rules. It wasn't like this was sprung on you, like you looked around and you were like, oh shit, it's 3-on-3. Third of all, and this is maybe the most important part, you have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid. You have one of the best defensemen in the world in Cale Makar. You have another fucking beast of a best player in the world in Nathan McKinnon. Your big boys were on the ice. Those were the three players that any human being would have put on the ice for Canada. They are better than any three anyone else could put out there. In fact, if you did a Canada versus the world, those would still be the best three players on the ice. Why are you fucking complaining because you lost when you remove 4 players from the ice? Yeah, we get it. I also don't think 3-on-3 is how the Olympics should have done this. It should be straight 5v5 until somebody scores. These are the rules. You benefited from the rules, and now you're fucking crying about it because you lost the gold medal game? I hate John Cooper.
Let me ask you this. Which do you think? Now, let me start here then. I, in a sense, agree with you. There's this piece about this at ESPN, I think it was a number of years ago, about if the NHL did endless 5v5 playoff-style overtime for regular season games, how many games would you have that went multiple overtimes? And I don't remember what the exact number was. The answer is really not that many. Most of those games end within the first 10 minutes of the first overtime. The possibility, however, that yes, it's the Olympics, and yes, it's important in that sense. But as you and I have both noted, the primary responsibility for these players is to their NHL teams that are paying their salaries. They're just never going to go for endless 5v5 overtime because the possibilities that somebody is going to get seriously hurt playing that much hockey is far too high for the tolerance level of the NHL and the NHL owners. And I completely understand that. So I'm with you in a sense of principle, but in a sense of pragmatism, I understand why it's not going to be endless 5v5 until somebody scores a goal. But let me ask you this question. Which do you think is a better way to decide a hockey game? 3-on-3 overtime until somebody wins, or a shootout?
3-on-3 overtime.
14. It was at a Group
TJ
A
Oshie,
game.
American hero.
TJ
Till Jack
Oshie,
Hughes took it
American
from him.
hero, the multi-round shootout. Look, that was fun and exciting. I had a joy watching that game. I don't think that was a better way to decide a hockey game than 3-on-3 overtime. The thing that 3-on-3 has going for it is exactly what you saw in that game and exactly what you see more often than not, I would say. We've talked about this before. We've had questions about this before. If there could be some kind of a penalty for willingly taking the puck out of your zone. I think a lot of that, the frustration with a lot of that comes from there's only 5 minutes of 3-on-3 overtime in an NHL regular season game before it goes to a shootout. I understand it from that perspective. We really didn't see a ton of that in the Olympic overtime. I think that is more interesting, more fun, and more exciting and truer to the sport. Not completely true to the sport, but truer to the sport than a shootout is. So I think it was a perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable, considering the pragmatic realities, way to decide that game. So you're right, like John Cooper, the whiny bitch little shit about the way that it was decided in 3-on-3 overtime. Your point is absolutely correct. He had nothing to say about the fact that they won the previous game to get them to the gold medal game in 3-on-3 overtime. And again, you're absolutely correct. It's not like this was, the officials coming together because they had initially decided, a period of 5v5 overtime or endless 5v5 overtime is like, we're really nervous. We don't want to do that. So we're just going to now make it a 3-on-3 overtime. It wasn't sprung on them. They knew that this was the circumstances. Play better. Don't have the supposed best defenseman in the world, who's not the best defenseman in the world, get caught cheating that deep in the offensive zone. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
You even took a more serious approach. I will say this about the 3-on-3. I think the reason why the NHL can't replicate the 3-on-3, to your point about we didn't really see much of like the pulling the puck back, is when you're in a best on best from an Olympic standpoint, the goal, I don't think I made this point before when I was talking about Eddie Olczyk. I went on my Kenny Albert rant. He said in the middle of the third period or towards the end of the third period, the United States would take getting to overtime at this point, right? And making it 3-on-3. In the NHL, more often than not, there's like 5 guys you're really worried about coming over the boards from a 3-on-3 perspective. In the Olympics, like Sweden, the United States, Canada, Czechia, like these guys, I'm sorry, Finland, like these guys have a plethora of players who can make a difference. So you're almost trying to win as fast as possible instead of playing the quote unquote safe way to wait for your chances, because you literally have to take it to Canada, which I think is one of the best things the United States did, was like they took it to Canada. They did not have a choice. They only had a couple of horses to run. They ran them. They went out. They scored the goal. They won the game. Boom. Game over. You had to do it that way. Harder in the NHL where, like, if Artemi Panarin doesn't get the goal, the Rangers are a bad example because then you're going to like Matt Rempe playing in overtime. But it's just, okay, now it's kind of like bide our time. Don't make a mistake. Wait till they get rested and then bring them back out again. There was none of that in the Olympics. Now, to the John Cooper point, just you fucking lost. Nathan MacKinnon, was he the one that made the comment of like, you judge who the better team is? Was it MacKinnon?
Yes.
You know what's a really good judge of who the better team was, Nate? The fucking scoreboard. That's it. Stop your bitching. I get the point you're making. You dominated the game. Congratulations. You didn't fucking win. What do you want me to do? We're supposed to feel bad for you? I saw somebody else on Twitter who was like, I'd rather have a silver medal. I think you actually quote tweeted this into my mentions. I'd rather be a Canadian player with a silver medal than a United States player with a gold medal. Congrats, I guess, on your second place. The amount
Also,
of fucking
bullshit.
cope.
Bullshit. No, you wouldn't.
Right,
You
of
would
course
rather
you
have a
wouldn't.
gold medal.
And like, by the way, not for nothing, the way Canada reacted to winning the Four Nations last year in this like dominant, oh my God, we fucking beat you guys. This is our sport. Fuck you. The amount of pent up pressure in the United States locker room. I don't know if you saw any of the Mike Sullivan comments that like before the game when he was making his, speech to the team. That had to feel so good for them to win that game. It felt so good for me. I went to the spot, Eric, the sacred spot. As I tweeted about, there was a spot on my couch. I'm very superstitious. I'm going to talk about this in the Joe's Items to Consider. You can read it if you are a subscriber to Blueshirt Banter in the premier tier. I am very superstitious. I believe you can overuse things. The spot has not been used since Quinnipiac won the national championship against Minnesota. Same exact situation. Game was won in overtime. Absolutely amazing. I moved to the spot midway through the third period because I felt like I needed a little bit of jolts for the boys. Same fucking reaction when they scored. I was able to jump off the couch the way I wanted to. I used the spot. I felt like this was important enough to use the spot. So I get it. Like I get where a lot of this, it just makes it so much more delicious in that, look, the United States lost. They took a ton of shit for it. Some guys, like Adam Fox, had their careers sort of like marred because of it. I think that's fair to say, right? I don't think that's a wild statement. Bill Guerin can say whatever he wants. It's why Adam Fox did not make the team this year. You got to fucking eat it. You guys walked around, Sidney Crosby and McDavid. They raised the whatever Four Nations trophy was over their heads. They won in America. I get it. Like that game was in Boston. I understand. We ate our shit. Now you have to eat your shit. Just eat your shit. See you in 2030, where we'll probably bring 16 grinders because, again, we're going to learn no lessons from this. But to have witnessed the first gold medal since the Miracle on Ice is a really cool thing. All right, now, anything else you want to say about the Olympics? Because now we have to slowly transition into the Rangers Olympics.
Well, do you want to talk just for a minute about the
I have
no
to go through my
lessons learned part of this?
Hang on, because that's a negative thing. Let me just look through the list of things that I gave you to make sure that we talked about. Sullivan, okay, Oh, Jack Hughes dating Tay McRae.
Tate McRae.
Is it Tate McRae? I don't know anything.
It is
about
Tate. You don't
anybody.
even know who this person is, and you're making
I do
a big
know,
deal
though,
out
that
of
she's Canadian, and there's like this enormous backlash. Amazing. You can't even have that, Canada. Jack Hughes has that, too. I'm going to put a little bit more respect on Jack Hughes' name. Makes me sick to do from a Devil's perspective. Scoring the goal missing teeth is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Doing the interview bleeding from the mouth is fucking incredible. Quinn Hughes ordering a beer during the press conference, incredible. Quinn Hughes being so drunk he needs to be stood up during the interview with, was it Tirico?
Yeah.
Incredible. Just no notes. All right, now you can go ahead and get to your whatever it is you want to talk about.
Just to make a point on because I think we did have somebody who asked about this to reconsider our opinions on
Let's talk
Bill
about
Guerin's
this.
roster construction for this. Look, flags fly forever. Bill Guerin and the United States team won the first gold medal since the 1980 Miracle on Ice, and there's nothing that can take that away from them. I think it is a mistake to say that because it happened this way, it could only have happened this way. That is a fallacy, and I don't think it is the necessary conclusion at all that everything that Guerin did was correct. Obviously, not everything he did was wrong either. But I do think, to go back to the McKinnon point for a moment, made this point last week as well, right? We have twice now seen a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament lose to a 16 seed. Is anybody seriously going to make the case that that 16 seed was a better team than the team they beat? I don't think that that's true. They played a better game in that game. They won, and that's the ultimate arbiter of all of that. And there's nothing, in a sense, that Americans really seem to like more than an underdog. So that's all completely fair. But you can absolutely point out that sometimes the quote unquote better team does not win. And I think the reality that you do have to acknowledge is that Canada was the better overall team for the majority of that game. If not for, as you noted, Connor Hellebuyck deciding to be some hybridized version of Hank in a Game 7 and Dominic Hasek at his peak, the United States could have lost that game 3-4-5-1. So I think it is a mistake to conclude that because it worked out, every decision that was made was the correct decision. I think the United States team could have been better than it was. I think it could have had more elite offensive talent that allowed it to compete better in the first 3 periods with Canada if they had more of that elite offensive talent. And by that, I mean players like Jason Robertson, Cole Caulfield, and yes, I do think Adam Fox. For all of the praise that Jacob Slavin was getting from the Four Nations, and I think he did play great at the Four Nations, I don't think he was all that good in the Olympics. So I think we'd also at least acknowledge that, some of those players that we agree are, he's a very good defensive defenseman. Oh, okay. Like there was nothing there that super impressed me about him in this tournament. So I think the team could have been better than it was. I agree with you that the fear is that you look at this, if you're Guerin, if you're Team USA, and you go, obviously we made all the right choices. Obviously, this is the way to build a roster to compete with them. The point that you made about Trocheck and Miller being successful there on the penalty kill, they did the job that was assigned to them there. What it doesn't answer is the question of, could anyone else with additional skill sets do the same thing or accomplish the same goal and not be as, if I may be so blunt about it, useless in the rest of the game as those two were for the most part? And I think the answer to that question is you could have players who could accomplish the same thing that Miller and Trocheck did and not be as useless as they were in the rest of the game. Go back to what we said a couple weeks ago. It was Fitz who had said that the American Team USA's thought about the Olympics was poisoned by Miracle. In the Herb Brooks, a quote there of, I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right ones. Understand, and this is something else that people have been pointing out too. Chip was, I think, upset about this as well. Understand that the comparison to the Miracle on ice, on one level, I understand entirely what you all are saying about that. The circumstances surrounding this game and these Olympics
way different,
are not comparable to 1980. The geopolitics of it is not comparable to 1980 in the Soviet Union, obviously, but also this truly was a best on best tournament. And the main reason that Herb Brooks wasn't looking for the best players and he was looking for the right ones is because the best players were not available to him. Even the best players who had never accepted a paycheck for playing the game of hockey yet were not available to him, because many of those players opted to get paid rather than go play at the Olympics, partially because they thought they were going to get killed by the Soviets, and that was a completely reasonable thing to think back then. He didn't have the best available. Bill Guerin did. And I don't think that because this worked out, happy as I am about that it validates every decision he made. I think you're going to see Jason Robertson on the team in 4 years. I think you're going to see Cole Caulfield on the team in 4 years. I think it's much more of a toss-up if you're going to see Adam Fox on the team in 4 years. There are other players that we're probably not even talking about right now who are going to be there as well. All of these players that played in this year, of course, are going to be 4 years older. by the time the next Olympics comes around. I think that there is a plausible enough argument for having or maybe two role player types, but I think the point is that you have guys who can play those types of roles who also have more elite offensive skill sets than guys like JT Miller, than guys like Vincent Trocheck. So I'm afraid, just like you are, that all of the wrong lessons are going to be learned from this. So I will eat some crow, as you tipped your hat to earlier, that this worked out well. I mean, there are people who were thinking the United States was not even going to medal in these Olympics, and they ended up winning the gold medal. So by all means, hats off to them for that. But I just do not think that it necessarily follows that because it worked out, every decision they made was the right one. I still think they made some errors in roster construction. They could be better in 4 years if they don't make the same kinds of choices. And I don't know that they're going to make those kinds of choices because of this result.
We don't even necessarily need to harp on it, but like the takeaway if the United States lost that game would have been, Jesus Christ, like we did not hang. Like we're lucky that score wasn't 12-0, basically. And
they should still recognize that.
Well, you would hope. You would hope that they would look around and be like, all right, so
yeah,
we kind of definitely
won,
need
but they
some
got
guys.
Pretty thoroughly outplayed.
Yeah, like we relied on, sometimes goalies get hot. It is what it is. I used to hate when people were like, oh, you're only winning games because of Henrik Lundqvist or Igor Shesterkin.
You're only winning games because of one of the players on the ice?
Right,
oh, my God.
That's what he's there for. So go fuck yourself. That's the point. It's just more to the conversation that we're having. Bill Guerin won. He won with the right team. He kind of did it on hard mode. Good for him. All the more reason to do it. It's probably part of the reason Canada is crying. He won. These guys will have their names etched in history forever. Period. End of story. No one can take that from them. So it is what it is.
Last point. I think now that the United States has won an Olympic gold medal after the Miracle on Ice, I think you will get fewer, not zero, but fewer comparisons to the 1980 team. The point that I didn't finish there is part of the reason that you got so many comparisons is it's just the last time the United States won a gold medal. It's the only thing that they really have to compare it to. It's 60, 80, and now this. Also, the circumstances, almost everything about it was different. So I understand people who are bristling at that, who think it diminishes what the United States accomplished in 1980. You're not entirely wrong, but some of those comparisons are just necessitated by the fact that it's the last time the United States won gold, and it's the only thing you can point to as a point of comparison.
Yeah, it disrespects this year's team. This was not like this was an upset. Don't get me wrong. This was not that level of upset. The United States have a really good hockey team.
That was a bunch of amateurs, most of which who did not go on to play in the National Hockey League, beating a seasoned professional hockey team that was the best team in the world. And it needs to be understood in that context. This was still an accomplishment, and it was a very good accomplishment, but it was not really comparable to 1980 outside of it being the last time the United States won a gold medal at the Olympics.
Now, let's move on to some of the not so great things. Let's talk about Mike Sullivan's comments, which I know you're already sick of talking about in our group chat, but too bad. Mike Sullivan makes the comment, there are whiskey drinkers, there are milk drinkers. This group has a lot of whiskey drinkers. I've seen varying takes on this. My takeaway was, and as was Johnny Lazarus's, that's a fucking shot at everybody that did not come to the team. Mike Rupp took it differently in his podcast with Johnny, where he was like, no, I think, Sullivan's saying you got to have both, and we have a little bit more of one than the other. Guys, I'm sorry. I think I put this evil out into the world about Adam Fox when I was so declarative about the fact that he was not, going to leave over this. I don't know anything. If you're Adam Fox and you see that comment, how are you not taking that as a fuck you? Is there any way you're hearing that comment and not thinking to yourself, well, I'll go fuck myself, I guess? If you're Jason Robertson and you're a free agent, a restricted free agent, at the end of the year, and you're looking around the room like, is that maybe he doesn't think about it at all. Maybe he's fucking pissed about it. I think the Adam Fox thing hits closer to home because there's already been some reporting that we're not sure how the relationship is going to be between them. I don't know how Adam Fox is supposed to remove the fact that Mike Sullivan and Chris Drury are not. The very first negative thought I had after Jack Hughes scored was like, and I think I texted it to you and Chip, this win definitely makes Adam Fox angrier that he's not on the team, right? Like, there's no way he's okay with this. And I just don't know how Chris Drury and his shit-eating grin back there when they're handing out the gold medals and Mike Sullivan talking about how they needed whiskey drinkers and Adam Fox is the best player on his hockey team at home and he's not there and two other guys are. I don't know how that's supposed to feel if you're Adam Fox. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm reading too much into things. I don't think so, though. I really don't. What say you, Eric?
I think it was a really unnecessary comment from Sullivan.
Oh,
And
I have to
think,
say, not to cut you off, I don't think Sullivan was doing anything nefarious. I don't think he was saying it thinking of Adam Fox. I want to make that
I
clear.
agree. I agree.
I just want to make that clear. I'm not suggesting
agree.
he was saying it for that reason. That's all I want to
No,
say.
I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons that I find it already so frustrating to have to talk about is because I don't think it was intended that way. But in that sense, perhaps it even makes it worse because it was an unintentional or maybe a more subliminal shot at not only Fox, but the other kinds of players that we were talking about, Robertson, Caulfield. Look, Mike Sullivan, despite the praise that we have for him, and I imagine we're not getting any questions this week about is Mike Sullivan overrated anymore, which we had been getting in previous weeks. Mike Sullivan is an old school hockey guy. He's a 200 hockey man at the end of the day. I think he's one of the best of those, but that is who he is. And there still is that. We've talked about it with the Rangers and roster construction, with Drury as well. There is that much more north-south mentality than east-west mentality. And perhaps what we need to talk about more is like, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest kind of mentality. Guys who have some of that east-west offensive skill, but can also play head-on. Like, I think the player who we really have not mentioned all that much, who probably deserves a hell of a lot more praise, is Zach Werenski, who I think was fucking phenomenal
This whole
in
tournament.
the Olympics.
I said it before, I want to say it again, that he's the reason Jack Hughes scores that goal.
Yes, bodying Nathan McKinnon off of the puck and getting it to Hughes is the reason that goal happens. The second reason that goal happens. The first is that chip play that Hughes makes to get it out of the zone.
Correct.
But the reason I'm already frustrated about this and tired of talking about it is because I agree with you that I don't think it was intentional, and I do agree with you that I think it is going to cause problems.
I just don't know how Adam Fox doesn't look at it. Yeah, I just don't know how he wasn't on the team. He should have been on the team. The team wins a gold medal. They're going to get a hero's welcome back to New York. The Rangers are going to put something on the Jumbotron. Sullivan, Drury, Vincent Trocheck, and JT Miller are going to be sitting there smiling with shit-eating grin on their faces if Trocheck's even in the game. He may be traded by that point. And I just don't know how Adam Fox doesn't look around and be like, fuck this. Like, fuck this.
Look at it this way. We go back to 1980 for a moment here, right? What is driving Herb Brooks? The fact that in 1960, he's the last guy cut from the Olympic team that he watches win the gold medal at Squaw Valley. And the story is he's sitting on the couch next to his dad. And his dad says to him, well, looks like they cut the right player. Obviously,
Jesus Christ. Holy shit. I never heard that story before.
It's referenced in the movie that he's sitting next to his dad. But the story is that I think it's in the documentary that's on Netflix, which is really good, and I recommend people watch it. There's parts of it about Brooks in there that they talk to his children, which is really interesting, and you understand that it was a challenge to live with Herb Brooks, and you could understand why. But you look at him holding on to that for 20 years, and the obviously dramatically scripted version of it in Miracle, where it's O'Callahan who's being flippant about it, and Jim Craig, Eddie Cahill playing Jim Craig, telling that story and making the point that Herb Brooks will do anything to win because of that. Herb Brooks held on to it for 20 years. And you don't think Adam Fox is still going to be chapped about it in next year, the year after, playing for the same two of the three people who were primarily responsible for constructing that roster? Yeah. Now, look, I think that was going to be a problem no matter what, which is what makes what Sullivan said all the more aggravating and frustrating and unnecessary. Because again, I agree, it was not a deliberate shot. It was careless. It was stupid. It was foolish, which in a way is not what I have come to expect from Mike Sullivan. Because Mike Sullivan, through a very difficult year with the Rangers, has largely said all the right things. And in a moment of euphoria, in a moment of joy, having just coached the United States to its first Olympic gold medal in 46 years, he said something very stupid that is going to cause problems for him in all likelihood with the team that is paying his salary to coach going forward.
And I want to
And it's not good.
Stupid for the Rangers. Like if Adam Fox was on the team, nobody thinks twice about it. Like, you may sit there and be like, oh, maybe Jason Robertson doesn't want to come, or if Cole Caulfield's a free agent, whatever. This is more of a, and if you're listening to this and you're not a Rangers fan, I don't know why you're listening to this, but by all means, USA, maybe that's what it is, or Canada, maybe you're sad. The bigger piece here is right before the Olympics started, the United States the media handed Mike Sullivan a silver platter. And that silver platter was, Brennan Othmann is not playing tonight. There is a rule about his usage in the AHL and the amount of games that he can play. Is that why you're sitting him? And Sullivan was like, no, he fucking sucks. Was basically what happened. He was like, no, he's not playing well enough. Like, he was way more honest than he needed to be about the situation. This is a little weird too to me. I agree with you. It's euphoric. They just won the gold medal. Everybody's feeling really good. I don't know if Sullivan was drinking beers or not while they were doing the press conference. I have no idea. It's just he's trying to talk up his boys on the United States side. I get it. I just don't know how it doesn't cause problems at home.
Well,
now,
if the point is that what you were trying to say too, that like, you need some of both, you can make that point and you can say that in a way that allows you to say to Fox, it was like, look, I thought it was, and there was reporting too that Drury and Sullivan were both advocates to Guerin to have Fox on that team. So take that for what you will. You can go back to him and say, it was like, look, we consider it a shame that you weren't there. We think you should have been there. We need players like you on that team. We need both style of players. He really left himself no out with this one.
Yeah, I hope Adam Fox took it the way that Mike Rupp did, which was basically, hey, you need both. And I'm not, we're not talking about you specifically. Or to your point, we really fought for you to be on the team. We're sorry you weren't there. We'll see you in a couple of years. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing, right? World Cup of Hockey is coming. Maybe Adam Fox makes that team. I have no idea. I just, I kind of cringe a little bit when I see this because I'm just used to things going wrong for the New York Rangers. And this certainly feels like one of those things that could turn into something maybe bigger. Again, I could totally see some of you rolling your eyes as you listen to this, like you guys are spending too much time on this. Not a big deal. Lord knows Facebook did not handle the Adam Fox, my shitty trade proposal story well. A lot of really bad reactions there, almost like none of them read the story. Maybe they didn't. Either way, it's just, there's no way to not talk about something like this given the context of what's going on with the New York Rangers. That's
my
really
shitty trade proposal.
Yeah, I know that's not what it is, but Chip, you deserve it because you don't know Rick Nash wore 61. I believe it's my trade proposal sucks, but it's my shitty trade proposal because it's Chip. So let's move over to something else. Let's leave Miller for a minute. The good news is, since the Olympics ended in today, I am already seeing more teams involved in Vincent Trocheck. Edmonton's been mentioned. Calgary's apparently not doing anything until Vincent Trocheck is moved one way or another.
Yeah, I think that's
Obviously,
the most
Minnesota.
important point.
Yep, Minnesota's in there. He's the biggest trade chip. Eric and I mentioned before, and I said this specifically, that I would have a major issue if Vincent Trocheck was traded to Minnesota and the Rangers did not get everything they possibly could have from Minnesota. And at this point, if I'm not getting Urov, I'm not trading him to Minnesota. If I'm Chris Drury. Now, the hope is the two of them are boys, just won a gold medal. You sweet talk Guerin on the way home, talking about how he needs, look at this, Mike Sullivan, Chris Drury, little inside job, make sure Trocheck's out there in all the most important moments. To be clear, for all of the, I don't think it was shit, for all of the concerns that you and I were mentioning with Vincent Trocheck, like what if he doesn't have a good tournament? He had as good of an Olympics as you could have asked for. That trade value's got to be sky high. I'm there for all of this. It's good to see other people getting interested in Vincent Trocheck. I just maintain that if you're going to trade him to Minnesota, you need to get everything. Strammel in a first is not okay. Not in the context of what we're dealing with right now. And I like hearing that Detroit, Calgary, Edmonton, although Edmonton is nothing, themselves, Minnesota, Calgary, it's good. Carolina, in a way, it's good to hear multiple teams getting involved because Lord knows the Rangers need a bidding war.
Yeah. It's not just Minnesota. It's you have to, and this goes back to a point we've made before as well, that if it's Carolina, if it's somebody in the division, I do not care. You trade Vincent Trocheck to the team that is offering you the most for Vincent Trocheck because the position that the Rangers are in is one where they need to get the most in return for Vincent Trocheck. I don't think that, goes in any way contradicts my point from last week's episode that trades are supposed to be win-win. What I'm saying is that in those cases, that team that is offering the most there still does think that it is getting what it needs. Yes, they're paying a high price, but I think that more often than not, people value what they get at the price that they pay for it. So it doesn't matter if it's Minnesota or anybody. It needs to be whoever is offering the most for Vincent Trocheck is who you have to trade them for. You are not in a position to be doing even your good buddy Bill Guerin any favors here. You have to get everything that you can get out of him for this player.
Here's my next question for you, Eric, while we're talking about this. Do you play Vincent Trocheck in a single game?
Don't know why you would at this point. There's 10 days, something like that, until the trade deadline. It's a week from Friday. There's how many games the Rangers are going to play? They have Thursday,
4
the day that
games,
you're
I
listening to
believe.
this, Philly, Saturday against Pittsburgh, Monday against Columbus, and Thursday against Toronto. I don't know why you would play him. There's just if you are committed to trading him, and I have to believe that they are, there's nothing good to come. If you were sitting Panarin, then by all means you're sitting Trocheck.
Yeah, you have to. I just don't see any way
Roster
that
management,
you can't.
quote unquote.
The bigger piece here for me, I guess if you want to get Trocheck into a game at MSG, I think they play the Flyers at MSG, if I'm not mistaken. They do on Thursday. I'm actually going to the game. That's going to be fun. And you want to, shower all the boys with their gold medal. Okay.
You can do it from him in a suit on the
Yeah,
bench. You can
it's
do
gonna
it with
be
him up in a
awkward.
press box.
It's going to be awkward one way or another. So
It is what it
I'd
is.
rather play it safe. And again, I would not be shocked if he was traded either, to be honest with you, before Thursday. Would not surprise me. I shouldn't say that. It would surprise me. I think it's in Drury's best interest to let this go as long as it possibly can and to let interest really drum up. And, if Drury gets an offer he really, really loves, then he can turn around and say to everybody, like, hey, now is your opportunity to get in. Otherwise, we're moving him. But I do think that at least on some level, it makes sense for Drury to wait. And on that point, sitting Trocheck only sort of amplifies that pressure a little bit. I kind of don't care, to be honest with you. The thought of Vincent Trocheck getting injured would be really, really bad. So let's not do that. But yes, to the point that you were making before, has got to be the best offer on the table. Drury absolutely needs to be working the phones. If Minnesota's interested and Detroit is interested and Calgary is interested and Edmonton is interested, you just need to walk down the list and get the best offer you possibly can. And I am not of the belief that a first in Charlie Stramel is the best offer that you can get. So I think you made this point a couple of weeks ago. If anyone is going to do a favor to anyone, it should be Guerin doing a favor to Drury and not the other way around. So that's that. Anything else to say on Mr. Trocheck before we move to your favorite hockey player, JT Miller?
Let's do it.
Okay. Joe did a little bit of investigative work. JT Miller, from what I can gather, was the third player off the bench, the third quickest player after Jack Hughes scored the goal. JT Miller looked fine all tournament. JT Miller was crowd surfing in Miami. JT Miller was hanging out with the boys in the locker room. Doesn't look like he was all that injured. And I already feel this from some of you, so I'm just going to get it out of the way right now. I can feel some of you with your aren't guys allowed to have fun? And they are. I have no concerns. In fact, I love the fact that Vincent Trocheck looked up into the crowd and said to, I'm assuming, his wife, I am getting fucked up tonight. Vincent Trocheck is allowed to do that because he's actually been trying on the ice. As much as I want him gone, as much as I think he's an issue in general, as much as I need the stink from 2 years ago to go away, Vincent Trocheck has not been somebody that we have been thinking was injured. If you watch some of those celebration videos, JT Miller's doing a lot of jumping around, Eric. Crowd surfing with an injured groin? Don't know if I buy it. I'm not happy. Guys are allowed to have fun. I'm not saying they're not allowed to have fun. I do have a major issue with the captain of the New York Rangers, who's supposed to be changing the culture of New York, playing 2 levels above in the Olympics like I fucking said he was going to, and then looking nice and spry.
The only thing that I was going to say to push back slightly is I think the level he played at in the Olympics was better than what he's been playing at with the Rangers, but I still don't think it was that good. I think he was probably one of the worst players on Team USA, aside from what we've already mentioned, which was the great work that he and Trocheck did on that penalty kill.
No points, but Miller was a big part of the penalty kill. They went 13 for 13 through,
yeah, they did not give up a power play goal. So yeah, absolutely credit where it is deserved there. Look, I agree with you. I have been unimpressed with JT Miller, and I have been frustrated with JT Miller, and I've been downright angry with JT Miller. And we have been operating under the assumption that JT Miller has been hurt, arguably significantly hurt, and playing through it out of a desire to be on this Olympic team. I agree with you that many of the things that it seems like he is doing would seem to be hard to do if we were to find out, as I think it was Chip who had suggested, that, postseason or whenever, that his groin was like literally hanging off the bone. Doesn't look like that. And yeah, so I don't know what you make of that. I think the worst case scenario is what we're seeing with him with regard to the Rangers is a combination of 2 things. One, what I cannot remember who it was. Phil had pointed it out in a Media Bites piece. I can't remember whose tweet it is again. That JT Miller is a great guy to have on your team when things are going really well, and he's a terrible guy to have on your team when things are not going well. A combination of that and arguably the darkest timeline here, which is what we are seeing is the beginning of the decline of JT Miller as a National Hockey League. I, in that sense, would much prefer that he be seriously hurt, because that much more opens the door that next year he is a better player. I don't know how confident I feel in that anymore. And for you and I, who had been so convinced that he is the guy or one of the guys that Elliot Friedman was talking about when he said you're going to be surprised at the players who go immediately on IR when they get back from the Olympics. If he's not, yikes. That is not a good look for JT Miller as a leader of the Rangers. But I was already there at, I know he's not going to be, but I want JT Miller off my team. It is only going to amplify the feeling that I have if I want JT Miller off of my.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily there yet. I am definitely in a like, what the fuck, dude? Like Ryan Mead, we'll give Breakaway a second shout out, is the guy who's been saying like Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller accomplished what they needed to accomplish this year. That's what they got. They won their gold medal. It sure feels like that. I took a ton of shit from people with my Vincent Trocheck shouldn't be gallivanting about, the fucking pretending that he's on the Wild already and taking a picture with the Wild. I think it's ridiculous. I think these guys should give a shit a little bit more about the fact that they're returning to a team that is largely a disaster, largely under their leadership. Like, I guess what it really comes down to for me is if you have an issue with this take from me, and that's fine, you're more than welcome to. Eric and I have been enormous proponents of root for what you want to root for, feel how you want to feel. I'm not telling you otherwise. Then let's just call a spade on this and say that you're okay. Like, it's okay for them to have fun. It's more important for them to have fun than it is for the Rangers to be good, is what you're telling me. I'm not suggesting they shouldn't be. Again, I have zero issues with Vincent Trocheck celebrating the way that he's celebrating. My issue here is kind of with JT Miller because I've been under the assumption that he's very injured just based on the way he's playing. Cal McCarr controller disconnect play as Jack Hughes skates in to win the Olympics. I have seen all year from JT Miller.
Yep.
I have been telling myself that he's doing it to keep himself healthy for the Olympics. You and I have pontificated and argued about whether or not that is a leadership quality. I think we are both of the agreement that it is not. But if you're telling me that that's just like, I don't give a fuck what's going on here because the season is lost, and instead I'm just focused on the Olympics, yeah, then I have a major problem with this.
Yeah, it's not leadership.
And it's not a culture changer. Like, that's the culture that we had 2 years ago. So there is a little bit of an issue there for me. And I do really hate that we're even having this conversation right now. Because if JT Miller... Go ahead.
I guess one of the things we need to see is, one, if Miller plays in the next couple of games, and if he plays, how he looks in the next couple of games. If he looks like the player, for the most part, that we saw in the Olympics, okay. I still got some questions about everything that led up to the Olympics, and I don't know that I am dissuaded from my negative opinions about JT Miller as of yet, but it would help. But if he comes back and he's dogging it on the back check again, if he's doing the controller disconnect thing again, if he is looking absolutely deer in headlights after every single game with nothing new to say, and in fact, the new things he does say are worse, it's not good. It's just not good. The best case scenario for him is he comes back and he looks like the player from the Olympics, which only casts a skeptical eye at everything that led up to the Olympics. But if he comes back and he looks as checked out on all of this as he did leading up to the Olympics, bad news.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching very closely if he even plays in a game at this point. Like, we don't know that either. He may not at all. But I just don't, I cannot stress how much I hate that we're having these conversations right now. I really can't. It's so goddamn annoying that the conversation around, first of all, it sucks enough as it is to go from what was ultimately 2 weeks of brilliant hockey. Maybe one of the best hockey games I've ever watched was the gold medal game. To, okay, I have to go back to watching the Rangers. Like, that sucks. There's nothing good about that. That's a horrible, horrible outcome here. But to even then have to worry about the fact that, like, hey, my captain has been playing completely injured all year, and actually looked a little bit better at the Olympics. And, now we need to have that conversation. I don't want to have that conversation. Like, this season just needs to end. So there's that, I guess. I don't know. Anything else, Eric, with the Olympics, with the Rangers, or you want to get to some questions?
Why don't we move through the questions?
Let's move through the questions. We already asked one of them. We'll start here. Skip says, I write this at 9:31 Monday morning. That's 9 hours and 31 minutes since the roster freeze was lifted. How much longer do we have for Vincent Trocheck to be on this team? We kind of talked about that a little bit. Eric, is he traded before March?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll be deadline day, but I think it will be in the couple days leading up to it.
I'm going to
Mid
say
next week.
it's Thursday or Friday. Friday is trade deadline day. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be deadline day. I don't think Drury gets anything by having that much of a rush on. I think Wednesday or Thursday next week, he's just going to be like, everybody bring your best offers because this is what we're doing. Now, then again, if I were Chris Drury, I would do the anti Luka Doncic trade. And if I get an offer I really, really like, I'm going to the market and saying, hey, I got an offer. I'm trading Vincent Trocheck in a day, by the end of tomorrow, whatever. You have 24 hours to amass your best offer. No callbacks. You just come to me with your best offer and then make a decision from there. So that's how it would go. Chip 23 again. How do you think Sullivan's milk drinker comment is going to be received by players who weren't on Team USA? We talked about Fox. We talked a little bit about Robertson. Do you actually think this would be something that would impact him in making a decision? Much like Fox, we're pontificating here and kind of extrapolating a little bit. I don't see how it would help. Maybe it doesn't hurt, but it doesn't help.
But I think it's a different circumstance for a player who is not currently coached by the guy who made those comments.
Rangers fan born after 1994. On a scale of 1994 to last season, you know what? At least I understand what this scale is. I don't remember the guy who did the scale. Who was the fucking person with the crazy scale? He'll remind me. Do it again. This scale I at least understand. How does it feel to go from watching our country win gold to finishing the Rangers season? That's got to be a last season, right? In the scale that was given to us?
Pretty much last season.
Is there any positive to watching the Rangers? Maybe if the Trocheck trade brings in a couple of big prospects and Green Tree comes up and whatever, you enjoy the last 7 games of the year. Maybe
that's the only possibility, is if players who are acquired, and they are younger players who are acquired that aren't really known quantities as much, play before the end of this year. That's about the only thing left to get excited about, because it's not as if there are burgeoning prospects in the Rangers system already who are coming up. Pretty much anybody who possibly could, who you really have hope for being a significant part in the future, is already here.
Yeah, again, I think it's going to be a little interesting to see who the Rangers actually bring in, what they end up doing with it. Gavin McKenna had 8 points in one of his games this past weekend. So, by God, bring me Gavin McKenna, please. Jesus, I've seen what you have done for others. Please. Please. You rigged the lottery for the Islanders last year. You don't want to have the New York Rangers wallowing. The game is in a really good place, Gary Bettman, coming off those Olympics. You want the TV viewership. Do the right thing. Rangers fan born after 1994 again. How awesome is it to finally beat East Alaska? They can have their exhibition Four Nations win. Seriously, though, now that the USA has won the gold, do you stand on your opinion of how Guerin built the team, or has it changed at all? Oh, this was the question you referenced before that we answered. So we covered this Rangers fan born after 1994. Congratulations. Nicole Vitale. Do you think JT Miller being surrounded by such a winning environment the past 2 weeks with his buddy Vincent Trocheck, who will likely be gone, will make him also want to leave? No. If anything, we actually didn't even talk about this. Somebody asked JT Miller about that. He had the option to room with Vincent Trocheck, and they didn't. And he said he spent enough time, they spent enough time together. I don't know. I don't have hard evidence on this. Doesn't feel like it's as much of a boys' club as it was when he came over last year.
I think so.
You ever have that situation where you're really good friends with somebody, or you think you're really good friends with somebody, but it's there's distance to the friendship. You don't see them all the time. And then you're like, oh, how great would it be if we were like roommates? And then you move in with each other and you're like, well, this fucking sucks. That's kind
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
vibes I'm getting here.
Overexposure.
Yeah.
I think that's I get
Like
the same feeling.
everything.
I understand what you're saying.
Nicole Vitale asked, did you guys have flashbacks to Eastern Conference Final 2024 Igor Shesterkin with Connor Hellebuyck's performance in that gold medal game, or was it just me? Also, all the comparisons to 1980 flashing back to all the 94 comparisons that season. That's actually funny to think about that. No, it wasn't Shesterkin. I was thinking about game 6 against Montreal in 2014 when Hank was literally
Fair.
doing everything. That save that he made, the spinning save with the blocker, I was in the building for that. I have never experienced a harder, oh, oh my God, that just happened moment. It's so rare to have something like that happen with a goalie, quite frankly. And it was just that's what I was thinking. It was literally, you know, what's the stat? More men have walked on the moon than Mariano Rivera has given up earned runs in the postseason.
That
Is
have
that
scored on Mariano Rivera in the
right?
postseason.
Like, and I think it's the same thing in terms of just like goals against for Henrik Lundqvist in a game 7, like when the game really matters. That was Hellebuyck. That the biggest compliment I can give is Hank in a game 7. That's
The
as big of a
only
compliment.
meaningful 1980 comparison that I think you can make is between Connor Hellebuyck and Jim Craig, because Jim Craig similarly played out of his mind in that game. I think he had like something like 43 or 44 shots on goal in that game and played brilliantly in the same way that Connor Hellebuyck did. And good for Connor Hellebuyck for shedding the demons of his NHL postseason troubles
And he goes back
and
to
winning
Canada,
the championship.
which is the
And
best. He goes back
yeah,
to Canada. Enjoy that,
goes back
Winnipeg.
to
Have fun
just
with
like
that.
Austin Matthews goes back a champion to his Canadian team.
Does Hellebuyck put the gold medal on his mask?
Oh, he should.
He has to, right?
100%.
Has
100%
to.
has to.
Has to. Absolutely has to. Nicole Vitale, I really respect Trocheck's comments about being proud and hearing the criticisms of him and JT being on the Olympic team. Do you think that was a slight towards Rangers fans as his acceptance of leaving, or just a general confident comment? I 1000% think that was a shot at not necessarily you and I directly, but everybody who was talking about him. Look, these guys are not robots.
Yeah, they're human beings.
They read social media. They see what is said about them. I have no doubt that Vincent Trocheck is well aware that a lot of Rangers fans, us included, were talking. But this is not like main character syndrome. I have no idea if Vincent Trocheck. Probably has no idea what the banter is.
Oh, I'm sure he doesn't. No.
But Rangers fans in general, comments about him not making the team, I absolutely think that was a fuck you. We deserve to be here and we won the gold medal. You're all wrong. And you know what? He's permitted to feel that way and say those things, much like Matthew Tkachuk had the currency to make that comment to Draisaitl. Vincent Trocheck has the currency now as a gold medal champion to say whatever the fuck he wants about his inclusion on the Olympic team. It just is what it is. I know you have to get out of here. We'll skim through. We answered these questions here. Kyle, we talked about joining the Discord. Big Blue 66 asks, are you as surprised as I am about John Cooper's post-game rant? Of course we are. He's a fucking baby and only complained because he lost. Chip 23, it was a personal favorite, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about JT Miller. And then Chip 23, or sorry, Sean Avery's acting coach. Will the USA winning golds help build the culture Sullivan and Drury want in New York? In other words, the two Rangers winning gold and Sullivan and Quinn, by the way, completely forgot Quinn was on the team for the record until the Rangers tweeted that out. That's me. That's not the question. I had no idea. Block that out of my memory. Basically asking, is this going to help the Rangers mentality going forward? If this was needed, that's a problem. Although I do think that the USA Mafia level of like Drury and Sullivan probably does help here. Like, there's no way Mike Sullivan is not hugging Brady Tkachuk after that gold medal and saying, like, it would be really special to do this in Madison Square Garden, right?
I think it doesn't hurt that the guy who coached the Olympic gold medal winning team and the assistant general manager of the gold medal winning team are the general manager and the coach of the New York Rangers in this case. If your goal is to attract Team USA hockey talent, I don't think that hurts. I don't know how much it helps. We've still got bigger cultural questions about the Rangers that is almost certainly, and I would even say certainly insufficient to overcome. But I definitely think that it helps, and it helps more than it would have if the United States would have gotten embarrassed and finished out of the medals entirely at the Olympics. So it's as good as it could possibly be, but I don't know if that's good enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is the best case scenario for the situation. I also don't know if it's good enough, but I'd be whispering sweet nothing. I mean, Sullivan was glazing Brady pretty much the whole tournament. Loud on the bench. He's absolutely like he's a big part of the team, keeping the boys fired up. He was mic'd up. Like Sullivan had a lot of really good things to say about him. That's what I would be doing if I was Mike Sullivan. Like, yo, I desperately need you on my day job hockey team. You need to come work for me. It's going to be great. Don't worry about all the things you're seeing. It's going to be fine. Look at JT Miller. Don't really look at Vincent. Like that, I would be doing that nonstop. And, you know, that's what I would be doing. There's a couple more comments from Chip, but this is really the Olympic episode. We don't have to get into some of the Mike Sullivan decisions that are being made right now with him not even back yet with the team. So, Eric, another hour and 30 minutes for you guys. You're pretty lucky to have us.
And
Any
without
other
a single
thoughts?
Rangers game to comment on.
Comments?
Yeah,
I got to be honest with you. We did a fantastic job through this entire Olympics.
I want to give a big
I also
hat
just
tip.
realized that we were supposed to have Keegan on this show, and we didn't. We're going to have Keegan next week.
You failed me yet again, Fortunato.
So, well, it ended up we can focus on some of the Hartford stuff next week. The timing will work out.
Yeah, it is fine. It probably works out for the better. But nonetheless, I want you to know that you have failed me yet again. I want to give a big hat tip to Chris and Roberto and Jake and Chip for the coverage that they had of the Olympics. Chris and Roberto and Chip had, of course, pieces projecting the rosters for the major contending teams at the Olympics,
They
and
already have
evaluating the
2030 out there.
rosters. Yeah, evaluating the rosters that were actually selected, covering each day of Olympic hockey. And Chip and Chris and Roberto had a piece up today when we are recording this, which is Tuesday, projecting what rosters for Team USA and Team Canada may look like in the 2030 Olympics. So big hat tip to them for the great coverage that they had of the Olympics through these couple of weeks and helping us get through that period of time.
I agree. Blueshirtbanter.com, $85 gets you all your ad-free access of the New York Rangers, gives you the ability to read those stories, including Joe's reaction of the week. I got a good one this week. A little sappy about the USA team. Then it's a little terrifying about the implications of some of the things we've talked about on the show. So you could do that. You can ask questions. The comment thread is put up every single week by Eric. Get your questions around the show. You've heard many of them today. Pretty much everything. Facebook.com/BlueShirtBanter, YouTube.com/BlueShirtBanter. Leave us 5 stars, leave us a nice review, say all the nice things on Spotify. I love reading your comments about how you love me more than Eric. It gives me life. Please continue to do that. Anything else, Eric? Are we missing anything here?
Go America.
Go America. As the women's social media feed said, consider the bird freed. Best line of the Olympics.
To quote two of the greatest philosophers of all time, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, America, fuck yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I haven't watched that movie in forever, but a movie I have seen.
Amazing.
There it is. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next week, probably with Keegan. So that was Eric's fault. Eric's a whale. Bye for now.